TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no rain with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Fight Night Fortunes with good friend and colleague, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro, a.k.a. Gamb. Go follow him on the Twitter or X at Gamb, and of course go check out his website at gamblou.com as we break down this week's Las Vegas 95 UFC at the Apex. No Abu Dhabi this week. That was last week, the week before Manchester. So we're back in the States for some fights, and super stoked to have Lou in studio via Arizona so we can talk the fights. And a shout out to the best producer in the land, Mr. Noah Frank, for getting us all set up here. Proud sponsors and partnerships, of course. That's WagerWire. Go download the app at Google Play or wherever else you do. It's free. And, of course, Viva Tequila Seltzer. Go grab their new flavor, coconut. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Without further ado, the true star of this show, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro. Good afternoon, Lou.
Jeff, good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me. I'm ready for another week. As the UFC marches forward, the difference is, of course, that now that football has kind of started and is here each weekend, we'll see a little less volatility in the early market and the early betting movement of the lines in UFC. Those will settle a little bit, become a little more predictable as we move into the fall and have to compete with football. But it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to talking about another card. I love the Apex cards, and we're ready to rock and roll.
As being a numbers guy like you, and I'm so glad we're together because we both think alike. And I was going to ask you, because I listened to you, your podcast, Sneak Peek podcast, on Monday, and like you and me, I'm a big line movement guy. Where is the money going? Not always true to form nowadays in the other betting markets. In the UFC, a more volatile sport, does the fall in football help you? Or do you really like to see where the movement is when there's more eyes on the prize or the UFC?
You know, it's not really a question of whether it helps me or not. What it is that in the summer, when those lines are the most volatile, it's when there's nothing for the public to bet. So we're getting the public betting the UFC, and they maybe don't necessarily need to, and they're hitting it early. They watch a line move, they jump in, and pretty soon you got a tsunami going. And so I enjoy the summer more than most, because now that great mass of market will go into football, and the UFC will reduce to just the hardcore people that tend to know a little bit more than when there's a huge amount of people that don't study it or don't follow it. So I think the UFC market, the mixed martial arts betting market, while very unsophisticated and novice, also is very small, and they tend to be information-based and have good thought.
12-1, the favorites at Abu Dhabi. you said in your podcast favorites for the year, 67 point, I think it was 8% this year. For us guys looking for the plus money, it makes it hard. Or, you get creative like we do here at ECSI, where a big favorite, you might go with a KO or submission to take a minus 300 to get plus money or close to even. What did you see last week? I know, congrats, great win with Dern. What else did you see? Anything surprise you or anything shock you in the card last week?
No, I don't get shocked anymore. Oftentimes my eyebrow will raise with certain decisions, but there was none of that. I thought Dern painted the fence. There was a different class of fighter between Dern and Godinez, just like we discussed. And the underdog, Sam Hughes, I had straight up as an underdog and plus 200 as a underdog via decision. So that went well. And it overcame a couple of the losers that I had. And I'm trying to think, the young Peruvian fighter that was early in the fight card, and then the Russian Tululin. I had both those underdogs. They both lost. So I start the night minus 2 units and still won money on the night as well. Have a couple of parlays into the card that are tied into future events. So we're doing well. We're seeing the ball well. The fact that if you're a handicapper in the UFC and you're up any money right now, with the market being so favorite oriented, then you're doing a few things right. And that's where we're sitting. And I just looked at, I'm not going to take the casino down in one night. That's not how I bet, but I'll take $1 off the table each week and do that every doggone week for you. And that's what we're trying to do, is matriculate a little profit around here.
That's right. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as we say here at ECSI. If you need a new pair of Nikes or whatever your choice is of sneakers, go get a new pair and enjoy the marathon. Buckle up. First fight of the night, Zalal versus, is it Arias?
Aaron's, Zalal and Aaron's, and that's pretty good. So Zalal is really a highly athletic, freakish athletic, and now focused young fighter. Here's a kid that started in the UFC and stunk up the joint and really had nothing but athleticism, and eventually got booted out. Then he went back to work. He wanted to return, worked his rear end off, has come back, and now is really an improved fighter. He comes from Morocco. So they take this Moroccan kid, they say, okay, we're going to take a guy, we're going to go up north into Holland, and we're going to pitch you against Jarno Aarons. And this is going to be really an awesome fight because you have two totally different styles in 145 pounds, featherweights. And while Zalal has striking power and he can wrestle, he's really deft on his feet, highly athletic, and I sense that he's going to be much faster than will Aarons be. And in Aaron's, you're going to have a little bit more of a plotter, wants to either envelop you, grapple you, push you against the fence, make it dirty, or slug and try and power strike you. And I think that style is maybe set up perfectly to make Zalal look good. And lo and behold, here's a line where Zalal opens minus 286, and now he's 3-something and climbing. And I get why he is. I think this is a tall task for young Aarons.
And as you said on your podcast, yes, opened up at 286 and seen it as high as getting into the 400s. So again, it pays to sneak on over there. No pun intended, to the Sneak Tea podcast on Mondays at Gamb, so you can grab some of that insight that you talk about on Mondays for the early line moves. Correct, Lou?
Well, what we try and do is just advise the marketplace of where the lines have gone. I may add whether I agree with the line move or not, but I'm not trying to make a position on these early line moves. I'm just trying to make observations that they've moved and share the knowledge with the people. Now, somewhere within that 10-minute podcast each week is a position that's moved that I do like, and I do offer a release each week on that sneak teep. And those releases are, in fact, those releases 13, 8, and 2 plus 5.5 units. So again, if you're $10 better and you just played every sneak teep podcast position, you'd be up $55 and having a little bit of fun. And now you could bet 15 on the next one.
There you go. Noah, second fight. Barlow, and I am going to allow you to pronounce that so I do not butcher that name, sir.
Yeah, it's just long. Veretennikov. And this is a really excellent fight because Barlow comes in hyped, striker, flashy, fast, athletic, violent striker. Not a great wrestler, but the guy wants to stand toe-to-toe and cross your eyes. And the guy's precise and skilled and potentially someone that could really make some waves. His original opponent gets sick, gets injured, something happens, they got to bring a short notice guy in. And so they bring this 34-year-old Russian Veretennikov in, and the guy's durable as he can be, has not fought bums. This is surely a step up for him, but he's getting a guy that he's older than and is not necessarily giving away any kind of real size. Barlow is only an inch taller, does have a reach advantage here. And really what I've noticed in the Veretennikov fights is that the guy is either a finisher or he does, when he gets beat, it's via decision. And I think that the market's too high on Barlow. This fight opened this week at a 1.5. And by the time I could write it up for the VSiN magazine and it's posted at 1.5 rounds, I loved the over. However, since then, in the last day or so, this total has changed from 1.5. It's now 2.5, where it should be. Because at 1.5, it was disrespectful to the durability of Veretennikov. This Veretennikov's a tough dude. He's going to be willing in this fight. And I think maybe, looking at it now, there may not be any value in the bet, but at 1.5, even though it was minus 190, that was an over bet all day long. Just it shows you how temperamental this market can be. All that being said, this could be one of the more exciting fights of the night. Veretennikov's tough, durable, forward-moving power striker, and this should be fireworks.
So I know so much on social media and the professionals, the experts. When you miss a number, they tell you very strictly, don't go and buy a bad number. And just the average Joe public that wants a little action on the fight, is it a little too spicy and too late to get into the under 2.5, even at a minus 145, Lou?
No, I like the over, so I would never advise the under, even at 2.5. I mean,
Yes.
I like the when it came 1.5, it was a dead over as far as I'm concerned, because I think it's going to take a decision for Barlow to beat Veretennikov, and I think the market thinks Barlow's just going to walk right through him. I just happen to think different. It's just too bad there's not a 1.5. What I would do is shop the many places that offer rounds props like DraftKings and FanDuel and find a way to bet this fight to start round 3 so you don't have to eat the middle of the third round. So there's ways to get around it. You just got to be creative.
That was a Freudian slip. I apologize. I did mean to go over the 2.5 minus the 145. I do apologize on that.
Yeah, it doesn't leave you much room. At 1.5, it was wrong. And they corrected it to a correct position. So I don't want to chase it when it's competitive. I want to chase it when they're weak.
Third fight on our card, Damon Jackson, Jose Marisol, currently at DraftKings right now. Marisol minus 238, Jackson plus 195. Have an over-under of 2.5 here, minus 125 to the over, Lou.
Doggone it, Jeff. I don't want to make a liar out of myself, but this is going to be the greatest fight on the card. And I mean it. Because these guys each want war, but in a little bit different way. Jackson's the more mature, experienced fighter, probably surely been in with different array of UFC talent and more elite. Chepe's only 3 fights deep, even though Chepe's currently 31 years of age, Jackson 35. So Chepe's 3 fights in, Jackson's a good 12. So the experience and the wisdom all go to Jackson. He's a long, tall drink of water. He's primarily a submission guy. He wants to wrap you up or have you make a mistake coming in so he can grab something. And they match him up perfectly with a really tough, powerful, short, choppy buzzsaw of a Mexican forward freaking pressure puncher in Jose Chepe Marichal. So Chepe is just a typical Mexican fighter, tough as he can be. He's 3-0 in the UFC. In his last fight, he fought this really talented French athlete. And it was a very, very close fight that could have gone either way. Chepe got the decision. So he comes into this fight. He's going to try and knock Jackson out. Jackson's going to try and get his back, get an arm, find a way to maybe choke him out, to put him in some form of submission and use his aggression against him. I do like Chepe a little bit in this situation. I prefer to really like dogs. I just don't know if Jackson's a live dog in this situation.
Before we get to the main event, Lou, the co-main event, I was listening to you on Monday, Gutierrez versus Basharat.
Yeah, that fight has now come down, Jeff. And so Basharat is no longer on the fight card, and he's been replaced by a fighter named Quan Lee. And so that fight's no longer the co-main event. The Chepe Marichal Jackson fight is now the co-main.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Lou. Thank you so much.
Well, no, and just think how exasperating it is for the UFC to 3 days before an event have this happen, and it happens numerous times on every card, and they always find a way to figure their way out of it. I really tip my hat to them. They're deft at refilling things, and this Quan Lee is a tough young fighter. He was getting ready for contender. Now they're thrusting him into the UFC against a guy that's coming off a loss, and this will be a good showing for Gutierrez, but Lee will be game, and he'll be in there. That'll be a fight to watch.
Lou, so the short notice fights, like you say, that happen all the time, I take to boxing where you 6 months, 9 months, you're training for a certain opponent, and if that opponent gets hurt, the fight's off. In the UFC, Dana and company are always trying to plug and play to keep the fighters that are training and getting the quick replacement. My question to you is, if I've been training all this time for Lou Finocchiaro here, and I know Lou is a striker, and then all of a sudden Lou can't fight, and now they bring in someone that's a grappler, isn't that a disadvantage to the fighter that's been training for one style? Or does Dana try to at least bring someone in with the same styles and techniques?
Dana tries to bring someone in that says yes to him first, and he doesn't care about whether you like the styles or not. And if you're in the habit of saying no to Dana White, then you're not going to get fights. And if you say yes to him and help him out of spots, you're probably going to get return favor. That's how the good old boy network works, and that's how this works. And so you're going to get way further in the UFC by saying yes and not questioning things than by saying no. I can assure you of that. He's made that clear publicly. And so, but to answer your question, yeah, it's a huge disadvantage. If I'm preparing for a long, tall drink of water striker and they give me a short, choppy wrestler on 10 days notice, I better figure some stuff out. And so some fighters can react to that, some can't. It's a big part of handicapping the fights. And then can the short notice fighter make the weight? Do they spend all their time cutting weight and don't bring anything to the fight? There's a lot of layers to this, but there's no one better, more prepared to dig into them than myself, because I love doing it. and this fight game is really, really awesome. This Marichal Jackson fight's gonna be a killer.
Main event: Marcin Tybura, Sergey Spivak. You talked about this. This is a rematch from 4 years ago. You talked about how money would be pouring in on Spivak here. Two heavyweights here. Your Monday's number to where it is now currently on DraftKings as we speak. Spivak is now up to -170. You can get Tybura plus 142, over under 3.5 rounds, -115 on both sides. Spot on as always, Lou. You said money would be pouring in on Spivak, and it's pouring in, sir.
I'm not sure I used pouring in. I'm sure I was more reserved than that. I probably said that Spivak would see some money. I know that at the time that of my release, he was 140 or 145. Yeah, he's 170 now, and really, we're just at the point now Thursday where most gamblers are going to start looking at this stuff tomorrow and of course Saturday, day of the fight. So I do think that the line might continue to creep up just because it's easy to like the younger guy here in the rematch, the guy that lost the first. And I think the difference here is Spivak's now in his prime, now at 29 years old, and he's had a belt load of fights and has great experience and in with some elite. Hasn't done that great against the elite. Tybura, same thing. Since these two have fought, each guy has beat the guys they should have beat, and they've lost to the elite. And so now number 8 in the rankings meets number 9. Should be great. They're currently ranked perfectly because Tybura won the first fight, and he's ranked number 8. Can Spivak take the 9? Now, to the outside world, this fight doesn't mean much, but Tybura and Spivak, this fight means the whole world. And quite honestly, I think that Spivak should be the favorite in this fight based on what we just discussed.
Well, I'm super stoked, super excited, and if I am correct, 2 weeks away from the Sphere and Noche, or is it 3 weeks away? Is my weekends off here?
I'm not quite sure. I know that there's a fight card this week, and then there's one following the next week, and that's really as far as I can take you right now. Noche's in the middle of September. I don't think we're into the middle of September yet, 10th, 17th. I think there's like 3 more fight cards in August, to be honest with you. So
I got ahead of myself with the 17 here, and again, you are correct in September. I saw the 17. I know they've been pumping it up, so yes, you are correct. We have a handful before that, as always. The scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone watching here knows where to find you, Lou. On Twitter at GambLou. They can find you as a VSiN and SportsGrid contributor there. Your website at gamblou.com. They can send you an email, as always, to lou@gamblou.com. You got a podcast on Mondays, the Sneak Teep podcast, and then again on Friday, Bout Business. But as we always close this up here, we want you to tell everyone where they can find all your work, and the stage is yours, sir.
I just want to tell everybody, do your own work hard, study hard, you'll do fine. Best thing you can say to yourself is you should have bet more. The numbers will come eventually. Just do your best to win. You covered all my specifics, lou@gamblou.com. Jeff, it's a pleasure being on with you, talking about the fights that I love so dearly. I appreciate the stage.
Well, we look forward to every Thursday. We can't thank you enough here at ECSI, and Mr. Noah Frank, the producer, as always. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only GambLou at GambLou, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro himself. Enjoy the fights on Saturday at the Apex, and we will see you next Thursday.